Hi everyone, my name is Destiny and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The topic of today's video is going to be setting boundaries, how to say no. So I am a retired people pleaser myself. I am the eldest daughter in my family. I am also the eldest granddaughter and I'm also the eldest niece. So that's quite a lot. Honestly, it's such a load and it honestly kind of feels like a burden sometimes because I feel like to a certain extent I have parented a lot of my little brothers and sisters and cousins and even my parents to some extent. And I just felt like it's taken me so long to actually realize that um, it took me so long to realize that I actually didn't have healthy boundaries or any boundaries at all set in place. And I noticed that I was starting to resent the people around me because I always felt like they were disrespecting me or crossing my boundaries. But to be fully accountable, I don't feel like I've ever been in a space where I actually felt comfortable enough to communicate what my boundaries are, what I will accept and what I won't accept. And just coming from like an African household, I just feel like our parents just kind of instill this like fear in us to kind of always be like obedient to the people around us and not just like. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is I'm not saying that, I don't believe in like disciplining children. That's a whole nother video for another time, and this is not the channel for that. I am just saying that I feel like the way that a lot of African parents raise their children kind of instills this anxiety or fear in them about actually expressing truly how they feel. So as an adult, I found myself just finding it really difficult and hard to set boundaries with the people I love, whether it be my partner, my friends, my family, my parents. It's always been hard for me to set boundaries, and I feel like ever since I turned 25, my frontal lobe is now fully developed. I've been starting to understand myself a lot more. I've been starting to be a lot more assertive, especially when it comes to my boundaries. It's really important to have boundaries. Boundaries are crucial for maintaining a healthy mental well-being, maintaining healthy relationships, and also just protecting yourself emotionally. And they also help you to achieve a lot of personal growth, right? So let's talk about boundaries in general. So what are boundaries, right? Boundaries are limits that you put in place to communicate to people how you would like them to treat you, right? Essentially, that's what boundaries are. It's just you expressing how you would like to be spoken to, how you would like to be treated, how you would like to be respected. Now that we know that boundaries are guidelines and limits that we use to teach people how to treat us, let's go into why boundaries are important. Boundaries are important because they help you to focus on your own needs. Boundaries are also important because they help to foster healthy relationships. Boundaries protect your mental and emotional health. They foster respect and understanding in relationships. They prevent burnout and resentment. They help you prioritize your needs and values. So now let's discuss the type of boundaries that there are, right? There are about 4 or 5 different types of boundaries. There are physical boundaries, are involving personal touch, right? So things like hugging people, shaking hands. Physical boundaries include your personal space and touch. Emotional boundaries are protecting yourself from carrying the burden of how other people feel. Emotional boundaries are protecting your own feelings by not absorbing or taking on other people's emotions. Time boundaries are boundaries that you set when you set time for yourself to have alone time, just to, recharge, regenerate. And those are especially important to make sure that you're having those because you don't want to ever overcommit to everyone else such that you don't have enough time in your own life to do things for yourself. Sexual boundaries include consent in sexual relationships. Digital boundaries are managing screen time, managing how much time you spend on social media, managing how much intake you take of the things that you learn on social media or your exposure to social media and online digital products and things. Let's get into it. How to set boundaries. So number 1 would be to identify your limits. Number 1 would be to identify your needs, to find out what makes you feel stressed, what makes you feel disrespected, and what makes you feel uncomfortable. Number 2 is very important. Okay. Define what's important to you and be very clear and specific about it. Communicate assertively is step number 3, right? Use statements like, I feel anxious when you do this. I feel anxious when you text me and you tell me you need to talk to me, but you don't tell me why. You're making me feel anxious, I feel overwhelmed when you constantly want to be in my plans every single weekend. Like, I also need time for myself. Instead of you and always start with I and I feel, so that at least you're communicating from the heart and it's coming from an authentic place of setting a boundary instead of spitefulness or anger or frustration. It's coming from a place of genuine communication. Number 4 is start small. So start building boundaries in small stake things, right? Like, I'm trying to think what could be a small stake thing. Like telling someone, hey, I know that you would like to communicate with me, but I don't really like communicating on phone calls. I prefer that you text me. Could you please text me whenever you need to correspond to anything important or whenever you need to reach me? That is setting a very low stake boundary and it's very assertive. I feel overwhelmed when I am texting because I have so many, when I'm on the phone call because of X, Y, and Z. And number 5 is you need to be consistent. Be consistent in setting your boundaries and sticking to them, okay? You need to stand on business. When you say that you don't like something, when you say that people should stop doing something to you, stand on business. Because most of the times, I ain't even gonna cap, people will really try you. Like, people will really push you to the limit just to see how much they can take or how far they can take it, For some people, like, using people is a game. Using people is fun. It's like the NBA league of basketball for them. So you just have to be really firm and consistent once you set boundaries with anyone. And you need to make it known that you do not tolerate when people set your boundaries. I've cut so many people off, so many friends, family members, partners, okay? Like, I do not play about my boundaries. I really don't. And I feel like it's been a long time coming, because at the same time, yes, because I'm the eldest daughter and the eldest child and the eldest granddaughter, basically the eldest in my family. I feel like it's kind of polarized. There are certain times where you stand on business and like you will not let people disrespect you. You go through different phases in life. Let me put it that way. I went through a phase where I was such a people pleaser. I wanted to make everyone around me happy because I felt inherently responsible for everybody else's happiness and everybody else's joy, and organizing things, making sure the house is clean, making sure that everything is running smoothly, like all these things. And then as I grew older, I realized that I would rather let go of control of situations and just like let it be for my own peace, for my own blissfulness. So I'll set boundaries and I'll enforce them when I need to, but at the same time, I'm no longer a people pleaser because I realize that I'm a person too. I also need attention. I also need to organize my own life. I also need everything else that everybody else is expecting of me. But you can't give to other people if your cup is half full. Your cup has to be overflowing in order for you to be able to give to somebody else fully and authentically. And a lot of the reasons why, when you're a people pleaser or when you're somebody that just is like, a humanitarian or a philanthropist, you love giving in so many different ways: acts of service, words of affirmation, support, money, gifts, physical touch, all that. It gets to a point where you get really burnt out because you're consistently trying to please everybody all at once. And it's kind of sad because you can't please everyone. There's like a statement. What is that statement? Jack of all trades, master of none. Exactly. When you're a people pleaser, you're literally a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Like, you then become burnt out. You're so tired. You're so exhausted from burnt out. You're so tired from constantly having to take care of everyone else. Now you have no energy left for yourself. Now you're angry. You're resentful. You're infuriated by everyone around you because you feel like everyone is constantly take, and taking, but you don't ever take accountability for the fact that you don't set any boundaries. You don't communicate your boundaries, and you don't stand on business when you actually set those boundaries. You'll be sliding back. So if you don't respect your own boundaries, how do you expect other people to respect your boundaries either? What do boundaries look like in practice? Examples of good boundaries are saying no to more work when you are feeling overwhelmed, right? That's the biggest thing. Say no. You should feel free to always be able. And examples of boundaries are saying no to more work when you're already overwhelmed, learning to limit the amount of work emails, work text messages, work communication that you are doing after working hours, not feeling guilty for wanting some alone time or making alone time for yourself in your schedule, communicating your comfort level in social situations. Examples of unhealthy boundaries looks like avoiding conflict by never saying no. Okay, if you feel like you saying no is going to cause conflict and you're avoiding saying no because of that, you're a pick me. You're a pick me. You're a pick me. Okay, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Not in this year, not in this date, not in this time. Okay, pick yourself. Choose yourself. Letting others dictate your time or your emotions, which means ding ding ding, you should not even you need to learn to be so indifferent that even when you are frustrated about something, eventually you'll stop being frustrated about like what other people do. You need to realize that people's actions are completely out of your control, and 9 times out of 10 they have absolutely nothing to do with you. Even when it might feel like they're really trying to make it seem that way, everyone is just projecting. Everyone has a projected image of you, but you know the authentic you know yourself, and you know yourself better than anyone else. So even when people trigger you or make you feel angry, you should be so quick to calm yourself down and let it go in that moment, because if someone can control your emotions, then they can always control you. And that's the good thing about setting boundaries, is that you really don't give a shit about anything and what anybody else says. Like, you don't care, to be quite honest, because at the end of the day, you realize that every single time you sacrifice a little bit of yourself to help someone else, you gain a lot more resentment for them and for yourself as well. You know, you're literally punishing yourself by doing things that you know you don't have the energy for, you don't have the time for, you're overworked, you're burnt out. And burnout is really serious. Like, people don't even, half the time people are burnt out, they don't even realize they're burnt out. You know, if you are drained from just texting, calling people, social interactions, leaving your house, that is literally a sign of burnout. You're literally so burnt out from bending over backwards trying to make everybody in your life so happy that you literally don't even have any more energy left for yourself. And you can become depressed and anxious because you feel like, why am I not happy when I'm making everyone else around me happy? And it's because you are literally giving and sacrificing pieces of yourself to be able to help those people when you don't have the resources to do that. It's okay to admit that you're depressed and anxious and tired, and it's okay to say no. I want you to start an exercise where for the next week, every time someone asks you to do something for them and you don't want to do it, even if you don't mind not doing it, you know that movie, Yes Man? I want you to be the no man, okay? I want you to say no to everyone and start feeling comfortable saying no. I want you to be the no man. Learn to say no to the smallest things. Can you please go get me some water? No. Can you please pass by the no? Do you want to? No. Can we? No. No. I like saying no. No is my favorite word because I have given up so much of myself in the past 25 years to friends, family, parents, and honestly, there's never really that much reciprocation. And you're gonna wake up one day so angry and frustrated because you wasted half or more than like half of your life or your entire life just trying to please other people. And then when you're down on your luck, or when you really need them, when you're burnt out, when you're depressed, when you're anxious, nobody is there, right? Because you're the bubbly friend, you're the strong friend, you're the strong child, you're the golden child, you're the everything to everyone all the time, all at once. But when it comes down to it, nobody is everything for you. They're not even anything for you. So that's what we gonna do. I want y'all to be saying no. Better say no all week. You might get addicted to saying no. You might be saying it for the next 5 years. Also, another example of not having healthy boundaries is feeling responsible for other people's feelings. Oh my God. If you're an empath, you struggle with this so badly. Like, I could look into someone's eyes and just tell that they're so depressed and like they're in a dark place and like there's nothing. Like there's just they're in this void of just darkness. And I can't help but like, feel for them. And I feel like people get that vibe from me, and they always like I always meet people at parties and the most random places, and people just feel so comfortable to open up their heart to me. And it's like, I don't have time for this today. I am so sorry. Like, yes, I'm an empath, but I've learned to turn that switch off, honey. Okay. There are times when I'm so overwhelmed, like, I just can't do it. I don't want to hear about, your cheating man that I told you to dump, okay? Which is another thing, right? One of the boundaries that I've always set in my friendships is like, listen, I'm your friend and I'm definitely 100% going to support you in your choices. But just because I support you in your choices, that doesn't mean that you get to trauma dump on me and consistently keep talking to me and venting to me about the same issues that we've been talking about when I've already given you a solution. Because, baby girl, if you need somebody to vent to about that cheating ass man every single weekend, every single week, it's not going to be me. Go to therapy, okay? Go to therapy, baby girl, or end this relationship. Like, I just feel like I have very high standards for myself, which is why I have very high standards for the people that are in my life. And most of the times, I hate that about like female friendships, is the fact that like most women aren't even really friends. I'm gonna make a video about this, just talking about friendship in general. Most women aren't really friends, and we think that like a lot of times that we are friends with like women because when we meet and we like each other instantly, it's like an infatuation phase, like we love bomb each other. I've been love bombed by friends, and then you just like all of a sudden you met, now you're best friends, right? But that's why most female friendships never really last long, right? And the guys' friendships last longer because they don't just dive into the deep end. They take it easy, they take it slow, they get to know each other a lot. But with the women, it's like 0 to 100 real quick. And I just can't do it anymore. Like, I don't have the capacity. I've noticed that for me, all the times in my life that I've had to lay down the most, like, lay down boundaries, the times that it's felt the most heavy was definitely when I was like probably in a female friendship. And how to communicate boundaries effectively. Number one, be clear and concise, but you can also be kind when you communicate your boundaries to someone. You don't have to be frustrated. You can communicate in a very clear and calm way. And don't apologize excessively when you set your boundaries. That's also subconsciously you still being a people pleaser. But at some point, I want you to take a mental note of how many times you say sorry. Right? I want you to actually take mental notes of how many times you say sorry for even just the smallest things. And that will allow you or show you how fragile your boundaries are. Use your empathy when you're setting boundaries. Acknowledge and listen to the other person's perspective. Be objective from your feelings, but also stand your ground. There is no need for you to shout, for you to scream, to set clear, concise boundaries. You can literally just have a conversation with someone. Not everything has to be an argument. Not everything has to be a I'm right, you're wrong situation. It can always be a I'll agree to disagree, but this is my firm boundary and I would appreciate it if you respected it and not do this again. Simple as that. Number 3 is you need to stay calm. If the other person reacts negatively to you setting a boundary, you need to remain calm, but still reiterate exactly what your boundary is. I understand you're upset because of X, Y, and Z. I too am upset because of X, Y, and Z. However, this is my boundary and I would appreciate if you respected it. Okay, practice active listening. When most people are having conversations, the reason why they turn into arguments is because one of you or both of you are not actively listening to the other person, but you're actually just waiting for a chance to respond to whatever they've told you, but you haven't actively listened to them, which is the reason why people end up arguing, is because you're not actively listening to each other or actively, objectively looking at each other's perspectives. You are just trying to drill in your own perspective, yet that's not how life works, right? But obviously this applies to some boundaries. Not all boundaries are negotiable. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Just like the whole toilet seat up, toilet seat down scenario, Some people might see that as something really like big, but it's something I consider to be a very small problem. Like it's okay. Now let's talk about some pushback that you might receive when you start setting boundaries. When you start setting boundaries in your life, all of the people that have been taking advantage of you are definitely going to be upset. Whether that's your parents, whether that's your friends, whether that's your partner, whether that's your family. Everybody that has been used to treating you a certain way, and feeling entitled to your energy and your resources and your time and your love and your kindness, those people are absolutely going to go berserk when you first start to set your boundaries. You can expect some pushback from people. The reason why, you ask, people may not respect your boundaries because they're so used to crossing them. Like, you telling someone that you don't want to hang out with them every single day of the weekend after hanging out with them every other weekend before that is definitely going to get some pushback, because it's like, why not? Like, we've had this time together all the time. Why? That sense of entitlement. It's going to be there, and you need to be prepared for that pushback and accept it, because at the end of the day, your boundaries are your boundaries, and you need to stand on business. When you set your boundaries as well, a lot of people around you might project that as rejection. They might not necessarily understand that this is something that's healthy for you, both, or maybe just you. They will automatically take that as rejection, because a lot of people don't have boundaries, and a lot of people don't set boundaries, and we live in a society where, besides the law, people really don't have any boundaries. Like, people don't have interpersonal boundaries in their friendships and their relationships, which is why most relationships are toxic, because people just don't respect boundaries, and they don't ever set boundaries, and they don't stand on business when it comes to their boundaries. Like, don't fall for the okie doke, okay? You are a magical being that is literally made out of stardust, and you came here and you do have a purpose in life, but also it's important for you to be able to conserve energy to actually manifest all of the goals and desires that you have for yourself. And you're never going to be able to do that if you're constantly giving and giving and giving parts of yourself away to others. You need to give to yourself first in order to be able to create more abundance and then share it with everyone else. Respond when you get pushback from people. Reiterate your boundary, okay? Reiterate your boundary. I felt this way when you did this, and I didn't like that specifically. So please don't do that again. That's setting a boundary, right? And people might be confused. They might think that you're rejecting them. And be prepared for people to disrespect your boundaries. Like, I mean, come on. If you've been a people pleaser all your life, and you've done everything for everybody all your life, you've paid for all their lunches, all their dinners, you've given them money, you've spoiled them rotten, the day that you decide to have a boundary, they're definitely going to disrespect you, because they're not going to take you seriously. They're going to be like, well, I've been getting pampered and treated by you for the last 5 to 10 years of my life. They might even resent you for it. Most of the times when you set boundaries, that's when you really see who cares about you, and who actually loves you, and who is actually also reciprocating and pouring into you. Setting boundaries is like telling the universe that on your energetic frequency, on the level that you're on, you're ready to attract people that are just as giving, just as generous, just as loving, because you deserve that. And I feel like a large part of why I was a people pleaser was because I think deep down I just always felt like maybe I didn't deserve to be loved. And that's not true. Everybody deserves to be loved. Oh, not everybody.